everybody, and welcome to For Unlawful Cinematic Knowledge, Episode 2. I am your host, Kolleen Carney Hoepfner. I am a contributing editor at Fangoria and also cover their Southern California booths for the conventions. I'm also the former EIC of Drunk Monkeys and the co-host of the Twin Peaks Drunk Monkeys logcasting, which would be coming back soon if we could all get our acts together. I am very happy to be joined today by my friend, writer, horror, and pop culture scholar, and semi-occasional performer, Brodie Hubbard. You may know him as Hub. That's how I refer to him. Calling him Brodie seems so strange to me. But thank you so much for being here today. And I'm very excited to be speaking about 1985's The HUGGA BUNCH movie. It's just like the most random fucking thing. So
It is, but as we'll dig into, like there's so much that this represents beyond just the story or even people's memories of it.
there's so much lore. Written by David Swift, directed by Gus Jekyll. I think I'm saying that correctly. This won a Primetime Emmy for visual effects. I'm stealing most of this from Wikipedia. It was produced for $1.4 million, which was the most expensive TV special at the time, and distributed by Vestron Children's Video Library. And I know Hub has a lot to talk about when it comes to the production of this and everything, but before we begin, I need everyone to know what a HUGGA BUNCH is. A HUGGA BUNCH was I just tried to minimize the screen and forgot that I can't do that while I was recording. So the Wikipedia that I have up is pointless because I can't get to it. That's okay. I have it right here. HUGGA BUNCH was a toy line from the Kenner Parker Brothers companies and Hallmark Cards. I remember it specifically via Hallmark. It started in 1985, and these dolls were sort of these oversized plushies that were a very specific type of fabric, if I recall correctly, that you could hug. The whole idea was that they were huggable. They were pretty cute. I believe I had one. I can't remember. They were not as important to me as Strawberry Shortcake and Rainbow Bright was, but they were very, very popular. And of course, then they had this TV special. Before we get into all the nitty-gritty, I want to talk about my first memory of watching this movie, which I suspect may be like a misplaced memory, but I want you to go first because I'm yapping too much.
I have memories of it. And I want to say before I came aboard today, I'm married with two children. And so this special would have been like my children would have been the target audience at their age. My wife was the target audience. And my wife and her brother, their grandparents owned a video store. This is like the exact kind of thing they would have watched.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. But she has zero memory of it. I showed it to her. She's like, I have no clue. Don't know what this is. I was watching Doug and Rugrats. I don't know what this is.
Right.
My kids said it was cute, but creepy, but cute. They would probably watch it. My son's probably aged out of it. My daughter is around the same age as your daughter, around the same age as the lead actress, around the same age you would have been when you first saw this. My only memories of it are the home parts, the parts with the family and the mirror and everything that happens before and after entering the mirror and exiting the mirror, which we'll talk about that in the plot as far as that's how we connect with the Huggas, but and the Shruggas. But it's really funny because I remembered this for so long. And just those parts, though, I didn't remember any of the fantastical world. It all came back to me when Everything Is Terrible was doing like their funny collages of kids stuff. You know, they have one for Rem Lazar. They have one for a lot of child properties. And one they do is they do like a creepy Twin Peaks version of HUGGA BUNCH, which is funny. And when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I actually remember that now. Like
How
that's the
funny.
thing
I'll have
I
to check that
watched
out.
when I was a kid. Yeah. And then, I must have seen it on TV. It's not a video that would have been in my, even though a lot of audiences saw it as a VHS tape at their video store. I remember from the broadcast and maybe if it got played in syndication later.
Right. See, I remember this. This is so 85. I was 3 going on 4 because I might as well be 82 because I'm mid-December. So it's easier just to kind of decide that I'm an 82 baby instead. But
Yeah.
but I remember this. I have a very specific memory, and I can't tell you if it's true or not, of watching this on the television at the hospital when my grandfather, my mother's father, was dying of multiple myeloma. He died around the same time my brother was born in January 1986. So my mom
Mhm.
was pregnant, and I do have very specific memories of my grandfather being ill, my mother wearing a mask to take care of him, stuff like that. I mean, when COVID hit and everyone was freaking out about masks, I remember being like, my mom wore a mask in 1986. Like
Right.
that's just standard practice. But I remember watching this in like a waiting room or something in the hospital, and I'm wondering if my mom has no recollection of this. My mom
Yeah.
does have a recollection of the movie because to this day she sings like through the mirror, right? So, uh, so it's just one of those memories where I'm like, is that an actual memory that I have, or was it like a dream? I can't imagine being in a waiting room by myself at the age of 3 or 4. Like if it was,
Yeah.
so like
But
so
that
it's
would have lined up with the
with
summer 85 release.
right. It definitely would have. Like it makes sense to me, but I just like to me, I'm in this big hospital like waiting room by myself, and my parents didn't let me ride a bike because they were afraid I would get kidnapped. So like I can't imagine them just being like, "Here's the Bon Secours Hospital. It's Holy Family now. Like, just bye." Right? So I don't know, but like I don't know. So but the Hug a Bunch movie to me, I have that same sort of issue. I do remember the family stuff. I remember the mirror stuff. And then all like the elephant and like the witch, like I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess it's just like I remember the dolls. And it's just like this is just
Right.
such a bizarre. I put it on. Lita's on summer break. Lita's my 7-year-old daughter. And she was like, okay, and went into the other room to like look at the iPad. Like she was not having this at all. So I guess maybe unlike Care Bears or say Strawberry Shortcake or Rainbow Bright, like the transferring of one generation to the other is not necessarily there for the Hug
Yeah.
a Bunch movie.
And that's something I'm sure we'll talk about. This
Yeah,
come at this pivotal point in not only children's television, but in commercialization of children's products.
right.
And it's like on the tail end of it being not cynical. Like certainly it was a capitalist venture. It was, Hallmark had these hit cards and they partner with Kenner, who's making Star Wars toys. They want to do, like you said, the next Cabbage Patch dolls. You have the precedent with also, where this might skew more towards little girls than boys, and you have Rainbow Bright and Strawberry Shortcake. And it was an attempt. It as a production, which had a lot of heart and craft and money put into it, succeeded in the short term, but as far as like the long-term legacy of that brand, no, it's
Yeah.
it's not something that anybody would ever do a revival of today, most
Right.
likely.
I would argue that like the Popples have more of a staying power than the Hugga Bunch, and I don't really see why. They're cute. They're not any more bizarre looking than any of the like than a Bratz doll, like or
Yeah,
whatever. So like I don't know, but why don't you like instead of talking first about the plot, why don't you talk about the production? Because I know you were like,
absolutely.
I'm only coming on if I can go on a deep dive. And like, of course you can. Why not? I'm the
And I
only
think,
host. You could do whatever you want.
and I'll get this out of the way. So you see modern day commentary on this, and it's so cliche for people just to come in and say, "Oh, nightmare fuel, it was creepy." And when we do get in the story, they are lacking, like I said, a heart as far as seeing what was put into this, of the emotion in the story, but also the craft of what got created. So it's this product. They're going to make this toy line. This was all kind of launched at the same time, right? Because the Hallmark cards are doing great. They see something in the character. They want to launch the dolls. They want to do it as a commercial. So Um, and some of this I can speculate based on just my knowledge of the industry. Um, but to me, it seems like what they did first was get Gus Jekyll on board, because Gus Jekyll wasn't a director per se. Like, he was a studio head. He had come up first as an apprentice to Freddie Moore, who is a very famous Disney animator. And he started his own studio called Film Fair. And Film Fair produced commercials. They did, the Keebler Elves. They did segments for Sesame Street. Um, Gus wanted to open up a European division, and so that company, like that European division, is what really took off. Like, years down the line, like the whole thing just became like a subsidiary of a bigger corporation. And Film Fair kind of got absorbed into these huge entities like everything does nowadays. But at the time, he was just, the guy who did commercials and animations. And so it seems like they bring him on board to head the whole thing. Like, we're going to make a hour, commercial for this toy, but we want it to be, a story that kids are into. And so they get, as you mentioned, David Swift to write it. He was from that Disney machine as well. He had written and directed The Parent Trap and Pollyanna and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. He had collaborated with Jekyll in the past. And so, they also bring in James Crabe, who's the cinematographer, who did China Syndrome, Night Shift, Karate Kid. He was the guy who had shot one of Gus's attempts as a director, Last of the Wild Mustangs. So you see where these folks are all coming in together. It's industry connections. People would work together. It's like, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to bring in people I trust. There's a lot of money on the line. It's a big deal. The person who did the makeup, Maurice Stein, was part of the Oscar-winning team for Planet of the Apes. Would,
Of course.
like, if you see like Beneath the Planet of the Apes and the wild like underground structure in that movie, like that's the same people, the same guy who did the Hugga Land and the Land of the
I
Shrugs.
love that because it's like the same energy as the cinematographer for Cool as Ice being the cinematographer for Schindler's List. And when you look
Yes.
at Cool as Ice, you're like, this is a beautiful movie. Like, it's so stupid, but it's gorgeous to look at. And I'm
Yeah,
hoping to cover that at some point, but go ahead.
absolutely. No, absolutely. And similar to the like, when you talk about something like Street Trash, mid 80s melt movie horror, the guy who shot that is also the guy who ended up taking the Steadicam and making that, a tool that accomplished a lot for James Cameron films. So with this, you have Bill Mesa, who was one of the people who founded Introvision, and they used that for part of the special effects, the visual effects. It's the same visual effects that would go on that Sam Raimi would use working with Bill Mesa on Darkman, on Army of Darkness. The Fugitive was like the real big thing under Bill Mesa's cap, where he then got to, as Introvision kind of phased out years down the line, he got to kind of do his own effects company and write and direct his own movies. So this was like one of the first calling cards for that work. And then you have, I believe the casting was, I want to say Judy Wilkins.
That sounds right.
Uh, yeah, and no other, as far as I could tell, feature or television credits, but they brought her in because she was commercial casting. And so she finds all these great, what I would call working actors. If you look at kind of their um, background, it's people like, let's see here. The story, the human story, the family story. Well, first of all, you have Jenny James, who had critical acclaim as Sally Field's daughter in
Yes.
Affairs in the Heart. You know who else worked on that movie? Was Amy Madigan and her husband.
Ed
Um,
Harris,
they had
one
met
of the
before.
several loves of my life.
Yes, they had met 3 years before in theater kind of community, but they worked on that movie together and got married while they were working on that movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen Affairs from the Heart.
Yeah, yeah. Big Sally Field vehicle, and she's the daughter Possum,
Right.
and um
Possum.
She'd go on to work with Hallmark again for the Secret Garden movie from '87, which is the version I grew up watching.
I remember that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and a little later, I want to talk about
She's
what
in
ended up happening.
broadcast news as well, which
Yeah,
is
she
very
played
fun. Yeah.
a young Holly Hunter in that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but what happened with her and with her brother, as far as very two different tales, as far as the actor and actress and what happened to them after their childhood acting. Um, but
Let's
Tony
talk about
Urbano,
that. Let's talk about that after. Like after
yes,
we
yeah,
talk about the movie. We can
fair
have a
enough,
postscript.
fair enough.
Oh, she's also in a Smoky. This is where I recognize her from. A
Yeah.
Smoky Mountain Christmas, 1986. Dolly Parton made for TV movie. Incredible cast. It has. Hold on, I'm bringing it up. Lee Majors. It has Dan Hedaya, and it's got Danny Cooksey. And it's
Yeah.
like Dolly Parton's like, I'm going to the mountains for Christmas. Here's a bunch of orphans. And then there's like a woods witch. It's very bizarre. I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead. I have ADHD, things fizzle out for me. I'm thinking ahead for Christmas programming for this show. There's a lot to talk about. And I was thinking of doing the Christmas tree,
Oh, yeah, of
but
course.
with you, of course. However, maybe we could do a double and do Smoky Mountain, like because Christmas tree you could talk about for like 5 seconds, really.
Oh, of
There's
course.
not much happening there. So anyway, okay, go on. Sorry, just wanted to. I have the
Yes, no, of
IMDb
course.
up.
Well, she she had a well, we'll talk later about what happened with her career because I think there's some interesting points with her specifically in her career. And again, the tragedy of her co-star, her brother. But the other actors are all like working actors, right? You had people who had been on like Dragnet, Gunsmoke, My Three Sons, Dynasty, Dallas,
Mannix,
Knots
yeah,
Landing. They're not movie stars, they're not even TV stars, but they're reliable actors.
yeah,
They're good. What I see of this and the casting, even the composer, Dan Specht, he was a LA jingle composer, he was a jazz musician, he was really renowned in music circles. Um, but the Tony Urbano, the puppeteer, he ended up doing Short Circuit, Men in Black.
fucking love
Um,
Short Circuit. I love that
he
movie.
he was the lead puppeteer on Team America, the
Oh,
South Park
yeah, that
guys
rules.
puppet movie.
And
Yeah,
I will say, so for the listeners, the both Hub and I watched. I got this movie through. You can watch it on YouTube, just like Teenage Bonnie and Klepto Clyde. But my friend Michael Epstein loves this movie, and he bought a VHS copy of it, and then like made a digital copy of it and sent it to me. And it did have the making of bit after the movie that Hub went ahead and texted me to make sure that I had watched it so we could talk about it. And I
oh
did
yeah,
love the background, sort of like, oh, this is how we built this world. Here's the beautiful paintings because they're very beautiful. And here's like when you work with puppets, this is how it works. And of course, being a huge Muppets fan, uh, I'm very interested in that kind of stuff. And it reminded me of when Birth Movies Death was still around, they sent me on a set visit day to the Happy Time Murders, which I maintain is a pretty good movie. And it was very interesting to see them kind of describe, well, we have to build all these things up so that the puppeteers can be under and these like raised platform type things. I love kind of behind the scenes stuff, especially when it comes to puppetry. So
yeah,
I really liked watching that, and it was cool to see like, oh, this is a puppeteer that like worked on it, and here's another one, and those were her hands, and like it's just like really cool. So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Like the craft that went into this. So this is right around the era of fairy tale theater. Uh,
yes,
a lot of, not that you can't still find good children's television. I'd say that, there is a lot of cynicism as far as how some of that gets made now. But this was still, even though it was a commercial, I mean, they wanted to cast believable kid actors. The other one, was I want to give you his name real quick. Um,
I have it
uh,
here, Carl Steven.
Thank you, Carl
Yes,
Steven.
yeah,
He had been in one of the Star Trek movies. The
he was
bookworm is voiced. Oh, go ahead.
he was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kid.
Yes,
And
yes,
I
that was
had a small fight with Lita the other day because she was like, do you know, honey, I grew up the kids. And I was like, I know, honey, I blew up the kids, which is
Yeah.
what the movie was called. And she tried to fight with me. And I'm like, I don't know if you're watching some sort of like YouTube video that's like a play on that, but the movie is not called. And like I was like, I saw it in theaters. Like I'm not fighting with a 7-year-old on what this movie
No,
was called.
no.
But that's I think where I recognize him from was Honey, I Shrunk the
Yeah,
Kids. I was like, oh,
absolutely. You know who
I
wrote
know
that
this
film?
kid. Yeah.
You know
Was
who
that?
wrote Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
No.
Stuart Gordon,
Oh shit.
reader.
Of course. Why not? Okay.
Like
Okay,
a
so
lot of he made a lot of money writing the Honey Shrunk or Blew Up series.
those were big movies.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they were
One for
great.
them, one for me.
Oh my God, that ant scene. Okay, we could talk about that later, but that made
Yes,
me
yes.
cry so bad when I was little.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Um, yeah. Two more people. Terry Castillo, who was Huggins, was also Grimace in the McDonald Land,
That's
you
awesome.
know, commercials. And Richard Hayden is credited as the bookworm. Now, I don't think officially in the production, but I think a lot of reports have come out that Richard Hayden was the bookworm voice. He was also Max Dightwiller from Sound of Music and the
Yes.
Caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
So you have these folks who are,
It looks like this was his last thing he did.
yeah,
Talk about
yeah.
going out with a bang.
Yes, absolutely. Like these are industry
Right.
professionals putting together something with love and care and craft, but also very much understanding like what the assignment is. We're trying to make this in the, again, this is like a pivotal time before everything's going to end up being VHS and where toys are strictly going to like cartoons are strictly going to be toy commercials. Like it's starting to happen, but it's as things like fairy tale theater exists and you have these people who do this project and either it's like the last thing they do or they go on to do except for the two kid actors which we'll talk about, it's very
Right.
important to talk about them, but even some of the adult actors, it's like some of the last credits they have, but like the people behind the scenes, a lot of them go on to do bigger and better things, more famous things. So they put together a real like crack team, to do this.
And the amount of money. I just looked it up. It's $4.33 million in today's money. And that's
That
a
makes
lot of
sense.
money for like it's not a huge amount of money when you think about productions, but when you think about a TV special that's like probably only really like 40 minutes long, uh
Yeah.
like to advertise dolls. Like that's a
And,
crazy amount of money.
and it probably wasn't like a Nielsen rating success, which meant a lot back then and still does to some extent now,
Yeah.
although the way they do television ratings now changes every month
Yeah.
as they're trying to tinker with the
They don't know.
technology.
Yeah.
But, it did well on video sales and the dolls alone made $40 million that year.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, when I was little, I always wanted to be like a Nielsen family. Like they got a special box and like I just thought that that was so luxurious when I was a
Oh
little
yeah.
kid.
Because
I'd
you know
love
your
to
kid.
like talk to someone who was a Nielsen ratings family. Like I'd love to know that information.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
anyway,
I think you had to keep diaries too,
I think
or
so. I think
yeah.
so. Yeah. Okay, so production wise, there's that. But do you want to talk about the plot now?
Oh, of
I'm
course, because
letting you guide this because you're like I came prepared and you warned me. And as you know from me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
well,
Like,
I would love to hear your kind of play by play of
okay,
the plot. I will just say that, it starts off in a really, because I don't know how much we talked about, like we've talked about kind of glimpses of our memories of it,
yeah.
but what's the actual story? It's like a
So
mix of Alice in Wonderland, Dorian Gray.
yeah, yeah. And then it's also just like it's also very the commercialization of like not wanting to age, like which I think is very
Yes.
funny. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, so basically the dynamic here is we're in a house and we have Bridget, our main character, the little girl, and she is sort of narrating what's happening to the audience via her stuffed animals. And her stuffed animals have like the best names. She names these stuffed animals like I named stuffed animals, right? Like I was joking around with a pal of mine that like most of Lita's toys were mine originally. And I'm not talking about like my childhood toys. I'm talking about like, no, I owned a Peppa pig playset when I was like 38. And then she took it from me. But like she gets this penguin from her family. It's like this wrapped present, and she's like, something's amiss because why am I getting a gift? It's not my birthday, it's not Christmas. So clearly there's like this is a family very much like mine. They can't communicate normally, so they have to do stuff like give stuffed penguins on a random Wednesday to their kids, so they don't have to tell her that like grandma's getting shipped to the old age home, which is
Right.
exactly what's happening. But she names her penguin Sweet William, and I'm like,
What
that's
is
a fucking incredible name for a stuffed animal. I love her. So just like quick family dynamics. Bridget lives in the house with her little brother Andrew, and then her grandmother. It was her grandmother's house. Her grandfather has died, and her parents have bought the house, so she's there with her mother and father. There's also an aunt that I don't think necessarily lives there, but pops in often and is sort of commandeering. Like Bridget's like she's kind
Yes.
of a bully sometimes or whatever,
And I want to chime
bossy.
in here that not only did they do great casting as far as getting, kid actors who had some acclaim to them at the time, especially Jenny. I'm like we're on a first name basis,
Yeah,
but
yeah, you and Jenny, best friends forever. I wonder if I could, I wonder if I could find her. Last episode, I was like, can I message Scott Wolf, which I did end up doing.
yeah.
Maybe I'll try to find her and be like, hey, because I think she's still
Oh,
alive.
Jenny?
Yeah.
I found her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I don't think she wants to be bothered, and I'll talk about that in a little
Okay,
bit.
that's fine. That's
But
fine.
yes, no, I know exactly what happened with her.
Okay, we'll talk about that towards the end. But anyway,
Yes.
I do think
I
it's a nice little, I think that the actors they got for this are very good. Like, there's the
they look
unaffected, they look
I was just,
similar. Yeah.
when they're around the table. Yeah, didn't they all look
They
like actual
genuinely
family?
look like they could be a family. It's great casting. It's just like how they got very lucky with Kiernan Shipka for Mad Men, where she grew up to look just like John Hamm and just like what's her face?
January. Yeah.
January Jones. Like she looks like she could be their kid in real life, and it's
Oh
just
yeah.
very lucky.
Yeah.
But like this does look
Yeah.
like a real family. And
It does. And acts like one
essentially,
too.
yeah, they do. They act just like my family. They don't like to talk to each other about anything. But basically, like grandma's in the way is like the whole thing. Like she's like the lieutenant governor called. I put him on hold. Like why? Like there's like phones. There's phones literally like 2 feet away from each other. There's one on the counter and then one on the kitchen table. And the dad's like, "You hung up on him on by accident." And it's like, just walk over to the other. Like, why are you putting anyone
Yeah.
on hold? And she's like, "Oh,
These are
silly
awful
me.
phones.
I'm such a nuisance." And the aunt's like a nurse, and she's like, "You need to stay out of it." And it's like, bitch, that's her house. Like
And I
you.
want to say, as somebody who for a brief time had to sell these phones, like there's a reason we moved into digital technology when it comes to phone
Right.
technology. 'Cause that company made me like put one in my home when I was selling it, and it was just so annoying to
I'm
use.
putting you on hold. Click, hitting the red button like you should be. My note here was everyone is so mean to grandma. Like they're just like so
Yeah,
shitty to her.
yeah,
They
yeah.
either don't care, like the little kid that like the only one who cares is Bridget. She's like, I love my
Right.
grandma. My grandma rules, and everyone else is like, what a fucking nuisance. And it's just like so mean. Anyway, so I wrote, I did write too that I think that Bridget, she has such a thick accent at the beginning that I feel kind of melts away as like the action happens. And I'm like, maybe this is like one of those things where my Boston accent comes out every once in a while, but for the most part doesn't. But like, she's very like, I'm in the Smoky Mountains at the beginning. And then she's just like, oh, we have to save grandma. Anyway, I'm pretty sure the family's biggest issue is no one likes to hug, which is
Yeah. I mean, and they picked a great story point to use. The these dolls are going to appeal to affectionate kids who want to hug
yeah,
or are missing out on hugs. And
which
so
can be, which as a parent of a very huggy child can
yeah.
be, I'm like, I'm a Sagittarius. I need you to be like over there. And like Lita's a Pisces, so she's all over me all the time. And I get it. I love hugging. I love hugging my kids. I love, but like sometimes you're just like, go hug something else for 5 minutes. Really.
Right.
Also, I think
Right.
her stuffed monkey's name is Kerfuffle, which is again a fucking amazing name for a stuffy. But yeah, the whole thing is this girl's very affectionate, and the grandma's very affectionate to her, and it's a very nice dynamic. But the rest of the family is just either not interested in being affectionate, as we learned with the brother, or is just like too busy being an adult. Like it's very like Hook, like when you grow up, part of you dies kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
This
yeah.
is very much a not only a fairy tale, but kind of, I won't go so far as to say one of the first postmodern fairy tales. I mean, but like you did get, like you said, at some point, Hook, and you got where there was more of a blending of here's contemporary life and here's how it clashes
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
child imagination and what we want in, kind of fairy tale
And I
life.
think all those movies around this time, especially the toy focused movies like Care Bears or like Rainbow Bright, they had those sort of like when you grow up, part of you dies. Like Care Bears, it was like people don't care anymore, right? We need to make them
Mhm.
care again. And then Rainbow Bright is like, there's not as much color in the world. Everything is so drab. So it's like these sort of like kid focused ideas of like don't let the kid part of you die, which I think is, I mean, again, I just said I owned a Peppa Pig playset at 37. So like,
Yeah.
like to me it's very important for me to keep that youth about me, because I think it makes me be able to handle like the minutia of being a grown up, especially in 2026, like alive a little, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
um
And this was made by grown-ups who had come up through the Disney system and
exactly.
through commercials. We mentioned Mad Men. I did very much think of that Mad Men era of the production. Like, they didn't concentrate so many episodes of Mad Men on like you'd get glimpses though of like the guys producing commercials and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when there was care and craft to it, and there's still. I'm not saying there isn't now. I'm sure there still is.
It's very
But
different though.
it's very different.
It's in a less tangible way, and I don't know if it's because a lot of things are just like computer animated or something like that, where but
Yeah.
like there's at the behind the scenes of this has that glimpse of the lady painting the beautiful backgrounds, and it's like we
Hmm.
don't really, and I'm not discrediting digital art at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I do the same thing, but there is something to be said about like a a canvas and acrylics
Yeah.
and oils and stuff like that. It's just so tangible. And I think and this is just a tangible thing anyway, because the whole idea of these dolls is that you hug, and that's a
Yeah.
tangible. Um,
Absolutely.
so basically what we have is Bridget in a room, understanding that something is amiss in the home, which is, of course, the grandmother is going to be moving out into an old age facility, which we'll get to towards the end. But she knows, and it's very much like the kids know something is going on when you're trying hard not to let them know. They always know. It's easier just to be like direct. But anyway, she's playing with her dolls, she's hugging them, she hears this like twinkling, giggling on the other side of the mirror, and she's like, that's weird. But then eventually what happens is her mirror becomes like this portal to like hug a bunch
Yes.
fucking land or whatever. And Huggin, the main Hug a Bunch puppet that we see, comes through the mirror and is like, oh, like, she's very Miss Piggy coded. She's very like she says, I'll charm his teeth out of his gums. Like I'm just like, this is very like they took like a page or two out of Miss Piggy, but also that's kind of horrifying. So it's like, is this a horror movie? So
And that's where they're using very gothic elements because you
yeah,
have the threshold, you
yeah,
have liminal space. This
yeah.
is like, you know, uh,
Hug a
I'm
bunch of
not
land in the
saying
back rooms.
that's what I'm saying. How do we know that Kane Pixels didn't watch this? He's probably too young, actually.
He is younger than my oldest son, Aiden. He is
Ugh.
20, and like it was like date of birth 2005, and I was like, go fuck yourself. I was already a mom for a full year by then, but that's okay. Um,
I was at the Arizona Diamondback game yesterday, and we went to the little museum, and there's like a exhibit of when they won their one and only World Series in 2001, and me realizing, oh, the 25th anniversary. And I
yeah.
remember being at my girlfriend's at the time watching that game, and that's 25 years
Hmm.
ago. I can't stomach
I had
it.
a very similar feeling when it was the 20th anniversary of the Red Sox winning
Yeah.
in 2004. I was like, ew, because I remember everything about that. That was the best time to be a Bostonian, I'll tell you that right now. But anyway, I do love, so like Huggins is like in their world for a while, and I do love that the mom washes her, like not
Yeah.
realizing, and she's like, I don't like it in here. I just thought that was very funny. She's like, oh geez, and then like it's so cute, like the little girl's like drying her hair and setting it in rollers. I just thought it was very, very cute. Uh, but this is where we kind of find out that Grams is going to be moving out. She's going to be moving into like a nursing home, basically.
Yeah, there's a conversation in the attic where
Yeah, which I thought was
Grams is
cute.
going, yeah, she's going through old memories, she's going through the pictures, and she's the only one who's really listening when Bridget's
Yes,
trying to talk about the voices in the mirror, and she's like, "Oh, I heard those voices too." And you wonder if, it does kind of leave a question hanging. Um, Certainly not for the kids, probably at the age who were watching it then didn't care or notice, but like as a grown up watching it 40 years later, um, 30 years later, 40 years. Oh my God.
40 years later.
40 years later, that maybe Grams had her own adventures with Huggas at one point,
Yes,
it's
yeah.
implied maybe. But as much as you could cram into a 40-minute toy commercial, I think the writer kind of left weaved those things in there.
She's like,
And
hugs fix everything.
yeah,
I do like though that Grams doesn't really particularly seem all that put out about going to the old age home. She's just
yeah,
very like, sure. So it's like so funny that this is the crisis year because it's like, I don't know, she seemed okay with it. But
yeah,
but
yeah,
uh but I do get it. And I did write this and okay, so basically Bridget goes into the mirror. She's like, we're gonna try to find something that'll make Grams look like young again
yeah.
and like that she doesn't have to leave because she's not like, old and I guess decrepit, I guess, anymore or whatever.
Right, right.
So she goes into like the Hug a Bunch world through the mirror and where it is stated that she does not need shoes because everything is soft, which I thought was
Oh.
fun. um here's the thing though. A lot of this, okay. And there's no way for me to say this without sounding like conspiracy theory pilled
Okay.
or maybe just like a monster.
Will it
But a
help either
lot
way?
of this dialogue, go ahead. No,
Oh,
let's
if
see.
we mention why she's going through is to find the young berries. I
Yeah,
don't know
the
if we
young
mentioned.
berries. Yeah. She's there to find these berries that will make Nana like old again. I mean young again
Yeah,
and fix her like aging issues so she doesn't have to
yeah,
leave, which makes sense.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but here's the thing, like a lot of this, once they're in there, a lot of the dialogue to me seemed like and it's hard because like you'll see people online and they'll be like, this guy's a pedo, right? And you're like, well, why are you thinking that? Like, what's wrong
Yeah.
with you? But to me, and maybe it's just because I just saw Mysterious Skin and then reread the book. But to me, a lot of this was very questionable dialogue.
Okay.
I was like, this is like a groomer's paradise. Like, oh, hugs make you tingle inside and they feel so good and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like, we're entrenched in a society where like not only is everything being run by like nefarious child abusers, but also like people are constantly equating people who are not child abusers with child abusers. And maybe I'm just like too online, but I was like, I take a lot of issue with a lot of the way this is
Yeah.
presented. It seems very double entendre in a way that's like not great to me. But I'm like,
Right.
but I might be projecting a little. I did just see Mysterious Skin in the theater, and I was extremely upset. I was like, I should not have come to this. And I'm being serious. Like I left it and I
Yeah.
was like, I shouldn't have gone to that. Like
Yeah.
I'm really upset. And I've seen it before, but
Yeah.
I was just like, maybe now wasn't the time to watch that. I don't know. So,
Well,
but
here are my thoughts on that.
okay.
I think it's a double-edged sword. So, I was referring earlier that, even though there were some young artists that you saw in the behind the scenes, a lot of these guys were old already when this was being made, like I'm fairly certain, even if I haven't seen an obituary, that like Gus Jekyll's no longer with us. I'm not sure about the screenwriter, Swift, but um these guys were already pretty old. I feel not me too mean saying that.
Right.
Um, and they were working in a Hollywood which still allowed older people to work on things, even if this was more at the tail end of the career and not as glamorous as, uh, Rocky, which the cinematographer also worked on, right? Like, so they weren't totally out of touch, and they were guys who knew like how to make commercials and things for kids. But um, I think that there would be more of a things run with a fine-tooth comb over it now because of the very thing you're mentioning about how we are so online now and there is so much entendre and slang and things like that, where you can't even say like the word come as in come here, come over. Like you can't even say the word come anymore without it being like, ho, ho, ho.
Right,
Like
right. How
that.
you think up?
Yeah. Like just we're as a society like totally uh, just
Porn addled, basically, is
porn
what,
addled
yeah, yeah.
and just like riddled with these memes and jokes and things like that, where it was so easy even like in 2014 for everything is terrible to take this and make a joke out of the whole thing.
Right, right.
And for which again it was funny because it was novel at the time, not so funny for me to see in the last few years like the various online commentary and people doing YouTube videos about this thing and going for like the lowest common denominator with the jokes about it. Like, it was made 40 years ago. And
Yeah,
some of the things
yeah.
we would laugh at now cynically about it, just that's not how people in general thought of it, I don't think. And that's certainly not
Yeah,
what
probably not. Yeah. Oh
kids
yeah, and
today
yeah, like
know.
kids like if Alita watched this, she wouldn't think anything of it. But if Aiden watched it, he'd be like, "What? What did they just say?"
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm like, maybe I'm just too online, you know.
No,
But
you're
but
you're
but also like the internet, like you can't. So I was trying to find, this is like so out of left field, but I was trying to find, I don't know if you remember, but there was this girl who like was definitely misrepresenting the book Lolita. And I was like, well, and then she was like trying to pretend like she knew more about it than me. And I was like, okay, well, like I wrote like a whole like thesis on it. So, like,
yeah.
no, you didn't. Right. And I was trying to find it because I remember like just bodying this girl in the comments. And you can't even look up on Facebook Lolita because it'll give you a warning. Like what you're looking up is like sexually explicit and
Oh
maybe
gosh.
illegal. And I'm like, I'm trying to look up the fucking book. Like
Yeah.
what if your name is like what if you're trying to find a woman named Lolita? Like that, Lolita, Smith. I wonder what happened to her. You can't even look it up because you get like yelled at. So it's just like, there's just this weird, I don't know. It's just the internet's ruined everything for everyone,
Yeah.
so
Are you familiar with Thomas Ligotti?
no,
He's a horror
maybe.
he's a horror writer and has also done this great kind of more philosophy book called The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, which basically, as a pessimist, he believes that it just a lot of his work was taken for the first season of True Detective. A
Oh,
lot of
oh,
like
yes, I do. Yeah, I know who
yeah,
you're talking about.
so a lot
Yes.
of Russ Cole's like antinatalism, things like that, comes from a couple different sources, but Ligotti among them. And I was trying to find some interviews with him because I've read Conspiracy Against Human Race and I'm diving more into his short story work. But like a thing for the suicide hotline came up.
Oh my God, yeah. Are you okay? I
Yeah.
can't post anything without Instagram being like, "Do you need extra help?" And I'm like, "No."
Reading
Not from
Ligotti.
you.
Are you sure?
Okay, so there, moving on from that, I felt it was important to say, but
Yeah. Well,
some
oh,
of it
one
does
other thing.
feel a little nefarious to me.
Well, look at like, what all the things they say about the guy who wrote Alice in Wonderland. And this has some big Alice in Wonderland
Yes.
allusions, but there's a lot of looking back and accusations of, or
Yeah.
maybe even documented. I'm not a person who's dug into Carol or his work, but
Yeah,
like
neither have I. I just like always assumed he was probably a little creepy. So,
there's actually a Ligotti story about that.
all
So
right. Well,
it, it
yeah,
was
I do
relevant.
know who that is. I will check that out. But anyway, so they're like, we gotta find these berries. Let's go ask the bookworm, which is easily probably the most horrifying looking like puppet in this movie. It's not that bad, but when you're looking, you're just like, oh, that's strange. Because like it's clearly
Yeah.
like a human's hands. and arms and I don't know. It's a big bookworm.
Yeah, and he's representative of the guardian of knowledge on the hero's journey.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they
And
got the
then
same guy who played the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland to play
yeah,
Henry.
which
So
is cool. Yeah. And
yeah.
then we have this elephant that's just like it's like I don't remember any of this though. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like I don't remember this bookworm or this elephant. The elephant I think is great. Like, but I don't it's just completely wiped from my memory.
Yeah. So I have a couple thoughts about this, why we don't remember it. Like they're great effects and stuff. And again, though, it might have gotten lost in the shuffle with everything from fairy tale theater and from, Disney and from, all these things. Plus, I was talking with my kids about this because they really were big fans of Child's Play 1 and 2. Those are the only two I've let them see so far. Um, and we were talking about how, while not the same puppeteers, a lot of the same technology went in to Chucky later. And so, literally the guy who did this went on to do Johnny Five from Short Circuit. So this might have been too early. And so even though they did spend all the money on it, they were using a lot of innovative, like pioneering the technology, but not
Right.
necessarily had perfected it yet. And so maybe it just didn't land like it would have if they'd had the same budget a couple years later. Not that it was rushed or I mean, it could have been rushed. I don't know the production schedule. They bet it could have been really like, we want to sell these things at
We gotta
Christmas.
whip it out fast.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of
I think
double
it looks
entendre,
right. I think it looks fine though. Like I think it
no,
actually
it
looks
does.
fairly good for like you know what I mean.
Sure.
They're bizarre looking dolls and stuff, but I think like the backgrounds and the puppetry and stuff. I think all of that is great. Like it's
Yeah,
really solid. It's a solid
but
movie. So
but the stuff we remember is like this more classical crossing the threshold and
yeah,
like the
and the
mirror.
house stuff, the family dynamics. Like I remember all that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's more relatable.
we do get to Queen Admira, which I just love the name. So funny. And she's like, you know, the keeper of these berries that are keeping her young and gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm the queen. And we have this amazing bit that's like so nationalist. It's like more American than like Rocky 4, where Bridget is like, I'm an American citizen. So I don't have a queen. That's in the Constitution. And I
Yeah.
am not even joking. That is literally what she says.
Yeah, I think that was an attempt at precociousness that they trusted Jenny James to pull off, and I think she
Yeah,
did.
I think she does. It's so funny. It's
I,
like it's like they definitely spent a unit on like the Constitution right before like summer school or I mean like summer break, and she's just like, I remember this. Like how Lita's always like, do you know about Pluto? And like she'll just like drop some stuff, and I'm like, I'm 45. Yes, I know that. Anyway, so they have this whole bit where she's like, I'm gonna, aging is scary.
Yeah.
I can't with the, I can't give away the berries. Uh, you're locked
By
in
the
a
way,
dungeon now. So
Erica Wells chewing the scenery like pure camp, but
she's
pulls it
great.
off.
Yeah,
Came from a soap opera background, like nighttime soap opera background.
she's
So
fantastic.
it tracks.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. So basically they get like and then they have this key situation and they get out, they take the key. She's like, no, my key. She has no longer has the berries. It's very quick, like it's not this drawn out sort of like climax. She becomes very old, very fast. And she's like, no, because aging is truly the scariest thing that could ever happen to a person. So we have to
Yes.
stay young and
Um,
beautiful.
and yeah, it's funny. It's kind of like mixed messages in that because
Hmm.
they do show the value of grams and why it is important. It's Bridget's love for her that drives the whole story, and we'll talk about the ending as far as what the resolution is for grams.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, maybe it's not a mixed message. Maybe the queen's is she a queen? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's queen.
Queen
Yeah,
Admira. Yeah.
Queen Admira. Her, it's kind of shown as like her vanity is her downfall, and so maybe these old guys who put this movie together were like, no, old people are still relevant,
Yeah.
like us guys.
Please give us another job.
Give us another 1.4 million.
Yeah. So anyway, she gets so basically Bridget comes back and she's like, being loved is the most important thing, right? And then she like chews out her brother. She's like, you don't like to hug. And that sucks. I need you to care about grandma because no one else does. And you're like selfish for not hugging a lot. Um, and basically, oh, and I have a note here that says she's like, you better like hug and tell grandma you love her, or else I'm gonna kick your ass, basically. And there's this moment like where they're like, okay, grandma's going. She's got her bags packed, she's off. And the boy's like, but I love you, grandma, please don't go. And like everyone's like, oh, and this is where I noted that the dad sounds like Bob Odenkirk. Like if I had my eyes closed, I would have been like, that's Bob Odenkirk. It's not, but it should be. He should be in
Who was
everything. But he sounds just like him. And I thought
he?
that that was very exciting.
Mark Withers.
Yeah,
Last seen on Stranger Things. He was the coroner, and I don't know if you watched Stranger Things
I did
ever.
not. I watched
Yeah,
the first season and I said, this is not for me.
I
And
understand.
I understand that it is like, it has a stranglehold on the zeitgeist, but it is just truly not for me.
If those kids weren't busy fighting Demogorgons, they probably would have been watching this.
Yeah, I think so. They should have had a Hug a Bunch doll like in there somewhere. If they did, I don't know about it, but I would have clocked it at the time. I would have been like,
But
that's a
Mark
Hug a Bunch.
Withers was, yeah, another one of these working actors. He did a lot of TV, Wonder Woman, Greatest American Hero, Magnum PI. But he worked up until, yeah, like one of the last things he did was Stranger Things.
Yeah, it looked like he
So,
just died a couple years ago. Yeah.
yeah.
So basically what happens is, um, they all realize through the power of hugs and Andrew finally being like, I care about something that isn't sports in the computer. They're like, you know what? Grandma's not going to that old age home after all. You're staying
Even
right
being
here
a
with us.
witch.
And the aunt comes and she's like, let's fucking go. And she's like, and they're like, no, she's not going anywhere. You have to wonder what the aunt's like, you know, did she have nefarious purposes for wanting them all? She doesn't own the house. Her sibling and their spouse, I don't know how they're related. They own the house. But it's just so funny because they're like, you're not going anywhere. You're staying right here, which is hilarious because they probably had to pay some sort of deposit to go, like this is where like I'm a grown up comes in, where I'm like, ooh,
Right.
the the light bill for that would be terrible. Like every time I watch like Christmas Vacation, I'm like the electricity bill. But like they're like, no, she's staying. And Andrew has learned to love again. And let's see,
Not
what did
just
I
stuff
write
his
here?
face with space nuggets.
Yeah, exactly. The space nuggets is so funny. So and
But
that's like
the aunt comes around
basically,
too. The aunt comes around too, we should mention. So I don't think she was nefarious after all. I think she just realized she was being
oh,
healthy.
I guess I probably checked out by then. I'm like,
Yeah,
they
no,
hugged. It's
she threw
fine.
her bags down, she threw grandma's bags down and it's like, oh, I'll get in on this and hug them all
Yeah.
too.
Well, everyone hugs. It's great. Then there's this little like kind of post, like it's not a post credit scene, but it's like right before the credits where Andrew's
Yeah.
like, okay, but can I have my like hat back? And Huggins like tee and like brings it through the mirror because she's been
Yes.
wearing it the whole movie. And like that's basically how it ends. So
We
we've
call that the
learned to hug.
stinger.
Yes. We've learned to hug. We've learned to love. We've learned that grandma is an important part of the family. And I assume maybe Bridget gets to hang out with the Hug a Bunch more. All right, and yeah, that's how the movie ends. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We bridge the family with the home. It's a place of affection now. It's not just a place where people are running around.
they're gonna
Bring
prioritize hugging from now on.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's
So
it's it's bringing back the affection into the house. It's taking a lesson from the land of hugs so it does not become the land of shrugs. Um, and it's
and that's
kind of
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot you could read into it, especially where the nuclear family was at this time, and um, even like the failure of the uh, healthcare industry, specifically mental health care after Reagan.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's definitely of a time because I have some family friends and the grandma moved into the community and she could have been more excited. Like, I mean, she gets like really cool lunches and she's nearby the family now instead of all the way in. She was in Nogales before. Now she's like in, Phoenix. And
So
so it's like,
she moved into like an elder facility, like a community for like
yeah,
older people. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
she didn't move in with
absolutely.
the family. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
there's like a ton of people who are like, I want to live in one of those.
Because
Like,
they're nice. They're pretty nice now,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even it was Tony Soprano saying for his mom, like, look what they have.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I wish the Lord would take me. But but yeah, I mean like so I don't know, it's
it's
nice,
it's it's of its time.
Of course. It's a very 1985 movie.
Yeah, yeah,
And when I think of the 80s, I do think of like that sort of like no family's important like dynamics like Punky Brewster. It's like this abandoned girl has been adopted by a loving father. Like, like I don't know. I just
different
think of
strokes.
yeah, different strokes, stuff like that. So it's like these blended sort of families. But yeah, I mean, and then there's this little like making of, which I thought was very interesting. It's quick, but it does have like these are how the puppets work. This is how we created them. Here's how we maneuvered them through the sets. Like, and I'm always very into that kind of stuff. So
But even the making of almost was narrated like a 1950s newsreel.
yeah,
Like it didn't feel like an Entertainment Tonight segment, even would have
no,
by the 90s. Like it's there's some really old-fashioned things here because of who was making it. Like these
right.
guys, accomplished guys who were, but still like in the twilight of their careers, and you know, luckily they didn't bring anything like really like weird and like I mean, there's like nothing racist or
Yeah,
problematic or
yeah, it's not like and here's like a
sexist.
random blackface character we had, or just like some awful, no, it's pretty standard
Yeah,
fare. So
but still rooted in kind of like old fashioned views
yeah.
and
Well, I mean, it is a
ideas of it.
Hallmark
It is a Hallmark.
production. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not meant, even though there is some great art in this, it's not meant to be great art. It's meant to be something kids will watch and want to
Yeah.
get the dolls, and like,
It's
well, let's make
very
some money off the VHS
sanitized.
tape
Yeah,
too. Yeah, I mean that's
exactly.
why it was put together with people who, did care about it. Like, we're getting $1 million, let's make it good, and they did. But still of its time, and unfortunately for like the like we said, the longevity of the brand, and even like the pioneering of the production, like it was blown out of the water within a couple of years by all new technologies,
Yeah.
and
I will say that the little girl looks just like one of my kids' friends. Like, and I run a Girl Scout troop, and she's one of the Girl Scouts. And the more I was looking at her, the more I was like, oh my God, she looks just like Lita's friend. And I thought that was very distracting. So, but also like, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I just
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
I had to say it. It's
No,
one
it's
of my
totally fair.
notes. Kid looks
Wh-
like, and I don't want to say her name on, but like kid looks like, Sarah. Like that's not
Yeah.
her name, but yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Now,
anyway, that's the Hug a Bunch movie. So what are you about to ask me?
do you want to hear about what happened with the kids?
Yes, I do know what happened to the boy
Yeah.
in real life, yeah. So, but let's talk about it.
It, that happened here. That happened here. He was in prison in Arizona. So like he had some more roles, but I think it was harder and harder for him to get those roles, especially because he was also dealing with drug addiction at the time. And
Yes,
he actually did like a series of robberies and got caught and was put away for 13 years. And it was during the midst of that prison sentence. He died in prison of heroin
right.
overdose, which is just,
It's really sad.
yeah,
And I did read that like he became addicted to painkillers like after a tonsillectomy, which like
yeah,
100% I buy. You know what I mean? So,
of course,
uh
of course.
yeah, so like that's just really sad and it's too bad. And I mean, but also like tale as old as time, right? Like,
Yeah, not unlike a lot of his contemporaries.
yeah, it's sad.
Um,
Um,
the ones who either died of an overdose or committed suicide. Like,
right. I know there's just so many.
yeah.
And then but what about her though?
So she took a really different path. And so she was in some more, I would say, acclaimed works, which we mentioned at the top of the show. And one of the last big ones being, and some people say her most famous role is on that Secret Garden because so many people watched that Secret Garden, also from Hallmark. So they wanted to work with her again.
Yeah.
Um, are you familiar with an author named Amy Sohn? She's a
No, but here's the
Brooklyn-based
thing.
author. Okay.
I might be because whenever someone's like, "Do you know like X, Y, Z?" I'm like, "No," but that's just because I'm awful with names. And then once, just like before with like the True Detective stuff, I'm like, "Oh, I do know who that is." You know what
Okay.
I mean? But like, I'm just
Yeah,
like, it takes me forever to like sort through the big file of my head of like, do I know that person? But that name is not familiar.
fair enough. So she wrote many years later about being a kid actress. And she talked about auditioning for the daughter role in My Stepmother is an Alien
Oh,
with Kim
nice.
Basinger.
Okay. Yep.
And she said, so it was down to me, Allison Hannigan, and a
Oh,
girl named Jenny James. And she talked about how her audition was a disaster, and it went to Allison Hannigan, and Allison Hannigan went on to all the success. And
right.
so Allison Hannigan went on to all the success. This lady was like, I don't want to be in TV anyway. I want to be a theater actor. And she did, have somewhat of a theater career, but she really came to, be known as author. But what I noticed about Jenny James being mentioned in that article was that it would have been right around the time of Jenny's last credit, which was in 1988. She did something for CBS Summer Playhouse. She did this other thing called The River Pirates. This was a year after broadcast news.
Right.
And so it made me wonder, like, was Jenny James going for these bigger, like mainstream movie roles and trying to break out of like television? And it just wasn't working out. Um, what occurred to me was that she came from this small town in Texas. She moves back to the small town. And I want to be really careful here because I'm somebody who has done investigative journalism. I dig deep. I can find people not to be scary about it.
Oh no, I
And I
get to.
found
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And I from all accounts, I didn't talk to her, but from all accounts, she kind of like wants to live her own life. And it does seem like there was deliberate decision at some point. Now, it could have been, we can speculate, hey, this thing with the big movies isn't working out. I'm going to like step away for a minute and concentrate on school. And she never went back. You know, a similar thing happened to me. I'm like, well, stuff's happening. I got a kid now. We're going to get some help with the kid and the family raising here. I'm going to move back to Phoenix for a little while. I've been back 10 years. I haven't
Right.
gone back to work in the industry in LA. I shoot stuff every occasionally and like send tapes, but I don't go to LA to work. Um, she ends up going to Texas A&M. She living in College Station. It seems
Woo!
like maybe at some point she met a guy, maybe I would assume in classes, and gets married and has a family. And I would say about the former Jenny James that at some point, disability touched her life and her family's life. And so it seems like she's devoted herself to education and tutoring and even like swim coaching and causes also involving like disabled kids and disabled
Hey,
people.
that's great though.
Yeah. And I saw
Yeah.
a picture of her now in her 50s, and you can see the little girl like that's her.
You
That's
can tell it's
definitely
her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even though she's going by a different name now, but very much a family person, church person, and like went right back to I would say small town Texas. Like she's 20 minutes from the town she was born in,
Right.
and just gave up all that stuff. And it's like, oh, you didn't make the big movie career that Allison Hannigan did that you auditioned against.
Right.
But like, is that for the best? Like she
Probably.
seems like she loves her life and her line of work. And when you contrast it with what happened to this poor kid who, you know, dies in prison of a heroin overdose, it's like,
Yeah. I mean,
not that
some
that's
people
what would have
like,
happened to
yeah,
her.
but like statistically, it just you look at kid actors and just
Yeah.
they seem to, for the most part, really suffer and struggle and like I mean like even Lita like so I keep mentioning Lita, but this is a child's movie, so I'm using
Yeah,
her as a frame of reference. But like,
of
she
course.
was the baby on the last season of Fuller House,
Right.
and I remember a friend of mine being like, "Didn't it like just tear you up inside when they like would take her from you though?" And I was like, I was as close to her as the door is to me right now. Like I was never more than like 5 feet away from her, but it did eat me up, and I was like,
Yeah.
I do not want that for my kid. Like I do not want her to be like a child actor. And like and that was she was like literally 3 months old. You know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, you hear like for every Elijah Wood you have, it was like, oh, my parents just had me do my job and then come home,
Yeah.
which was the right thing to do. You have a like the Corys situation where it was like we were being horribly abused all the time. And it's just like, stepping away from that is probably was the best idea for her, you know?
Yeah. You know,
And
it's funny,
plus, it's when you're a kid too, when you're a kid actor, you're just so like, okay, so the first episode of this show, we talked about Teenage Bonnie and Clyde, a movie I never shut the fuck up about. But Flanagan, she was the main actress in that movie. She was on Out of This World, which was
yeah.
a family program. And, she did that role to try to move away from the kid-friendly stuff. And she got mail that was like, I can't believe you showed your breasts in this movie. And then she got mail that was like, I'm psyched that you showed your breasts in this movie. And
Right.
like, that bridging of that gap, which I think, it isn't necessarily bad to say, Maureen never really bridged past that. Like she stopped acting around the time she was on ER. So, I feel like that struggle to go from child to adult actor, very few people do successfully.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because like I'm friendly with somebody who was in the Matilda movie, the first one, and she's still acting. It's not necessarily anything I've seen yet that is probably as well known as Matilda,
Right.
but she works regularly. And like, I was talking about the actors in this, like they were just what we would call working actors, and that
Right.
is like you even listen hear somebody like Lisa Kudrow talk about her philosophy about acting. And it's very much like it's the job. I mean, she puts her craft into it. Like it's not like she values the craft of it, but she treats it as a business and goes home and is with her family. And she's been in huge things like Friends and, The
Yeah.
Comeback. But it's very different than even like, Matthew Perry. Well, obviously what
Right.
happened to him. Like it's just there's people who handle it the right way. Mara Wilson, I don't think acts regularly, but she like writes and does
Yeah.
things, and
She's
she was in
great.
Matilda.
Of
Um,
course.
um, she's not the person I'm referring to, by the way, but
Right,
like,
right, right. I figured as much, but
but it was one of her co-stars. But like, um, yeah, like you just see the different. Todd Bridges is somehow like the only surviving member of that cast besides Pearl, who does the voices on SpongeBob. And so like, you know, I mean,
yeah.
to be fair, Conrad Bain was very, very old when he was even filming that. So that, it's not like Conrad Bain went out in uh, a bad way.
Right.
But then you look at Alf, some of those kids went out in bad, bad ways,
Yeah.
also in Arizona.
Yeah.
Um, I think the lesson is like Arizona is a bad place to die.
Maybe it might be Arizona. It might be on Arizona
I have
as
to
a
get out.
state.
I have to get
So
out of this place.
come
No,
back to Los Angeles and hang out with me.
I would love that. And the funny thing is my kid was, before he was one, had headshots and had shown up at a commercial shoot. It took one commercial shoot for my wife to like, nope,
Yeah.
not doing
Yeah.
it. She was
And
just
I will
done.
say, like, I have nothing but awesome things to say about the cast and crew of Fuller House, besides the fact that the guy who played her dad, like, I don't think ever saw a baby in real life before Lita, because I was like, what is this man doing? But I mean, it's like I'm the casting people, the food people, the baby wranglers who like, are there to ensure that the baby's safe. Everyone was wonderful. and
Yeah.
I was just like, and it meant a lot to me. It was just something silly that I had like thrown out there because I was on maternity leave. But like, I get to have the memory of Bob Saget holding Lita and saying, "Hello, Lita, you are very beautiful." And like just, holding her like she's the baby they bring home. Like that's her on the screen. And it was just so cool to see. But I was like, I could never do this. Like the minute she was like old enough to look around and be like, "You're not my mom," I was just like, "That's it. I can't. I could never do that to my kid.
Yeah.
It just felt so gross." And that was a good experience. So I can't imagine this like these bad experiences you hear of like the parents being like, just go. I mean, Natalie Wood's mother, just go.
Right. Right. Or them like loading up Judy Garland with
Yeah.
methamphetamine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like, and we gotta get the shot. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Forget it. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So,
And it seems like everybody else came out of this thing, specifically Hug a Bunch, well,
yes.
even if, but again, it's because it was a place where art met commerce and it was a business, it was a job, and they just happened to do some cool things with it and put some good ideas into it.
I think it's
And
great. It's just cute. There's a reason it sticks with me, even though I didn't remember it as well as I would remember, say, the Care Bears movie, which I mean, I do, to be fair, watch a lot. Like Lita loves it. Aiden loved it growing up. But like, there are certain memories of this that I have, and maybe it's because it's attached to my grandfather or whatever, who died when I was very, very young.
right.
But there is like a special place for it. I wonder how much a Hug a Bunch. I'm gonna look on eBay
Yeah,
to
yeah.
to finish up this show. We're gonna talk about how much Hug a Bunches are, and I wonder
Yeah.
how well that they've stayed together because I'm fairly certain they were like very styrofoam forward. Oh,
I'm
th
looking up right now.
this one
And
here is only 60. Wow, this one's in a box, 120. That's not even that bad for like collectible stuff.
I see a pre-owned one for $12 or best offer.
Yeah. Oh my God, look at how cute this baby. Oh wait, you probably can't see it, but there's a baby one.
I
So,
have to tell you, one of the great things about Arizona is there's a lot of antiquing, probably
you
because so many
know,
old people come here to die.
I should
And
probably come out there with Aiden then and we can go antiquing because he's always like, look for some cool clothes for me. And I'm like, cool clothes that are affordable?
yeah.
No. In Los Angeles? You're
Yeah.
insane. So, anyway,
You can find a
any
lot of 80s stuff and also for some reason Nazi paraphernalia. Very
well,
easy to
we
find.
have a ton of that here too. It's always
Oh,
like,
do
this
you?
is for historical purposes only. No, it's not. Get a grip. Anyway, any final thoughts on the Hug a Bunch? I don't want to end it on like Nazi paraphernalia.
No, 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 no. Let's not do that. I'm hoping we can end it on some plugs, but
Yeah, you have anything yet? Do you have anything to plug? Like,
I do. I do. I will do my plugs and then I will give you my final thoughts on the.
okay, that sounds great. Perfect.
I will be appearing voice only in a giallo called Until You're Alone. And it was written and directed by Christopher William Moore, who you may have seen such films of his as When the Trash Man Knocks and Blessed the Children and Triggered. Wonderful, uh, just really funny and great director. And I haven't seen much of um, the movie yet. I have a small role, which I said, "Am I still in it? Did I make the final cut?" He said, "Your voice did, so they'll hear you."
That's
I said,
fun.
"Okay, cool, that's good."
Okay, I'll definitely be
Uh,
on the. I'm sure you will tell me, and I can be like, here it is
yes,
to the masses and
yeah,
all the fans of this podcast.
exactly. But they can also look me up on brodiehubbard.com. I for a long time was more of a essayist and um, reviewer and scholar of horror and things like that. But I got into everything. Like the reason I know Colleen is because of Antioch University and like writing. And it occurred to me I haven't published any fiction. So I'm trying to dig back into that. So hopefully you'll see some
I
short
hope
stories
so.
coming up.
I do hope
But
so. I'm so out of the loop with like the writing world right now. And I
yeah,
was with Rachel Warecki the other day, and we were talking about how it's just so easy to fall out of it if you're not actively in it. And once
Yeah.
Drunk Monkeys closed, like I just wasn't actively in it. So I'm slowly getting back there too. I mean, I'm still editing my book, of course, and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah, you have to let me know when that's out. So I can watch it for one thing, and then, if you have anything published, let me know for sure.
Oh, of
So,
course. Of course, I appreciate
sure.
that. I
So
would say
final thoughts on the movie though?
this is a movie that either came out too soon or too late. I think it occupies a very interesting time in the culture, but particularly in like the craft of children's television and of children's media. And if it had been a couple more years, then maybe the technology would have helped them accomplish even more, and maybe it would have been something longer lasting. If they had made it earlier, maybe it would have beaten some other properties to the punch. But it just unfortunately fell into this time where it was kind of designed to be a short-lived like commercial for a toy line that ended up making 40 million. And the dudes who were looking to make their money made their money, and everybody moved on.
Yeah.
So but luckily we live in like this as Gen Xers and elder millennials, like where we could find this culture or in this society. You can find this stuff now
Yeah.
in other places where you could have not. For years it was lost media, but now we can dig it all up later and remember it, and for better or worse,
Yeah.
it still exists, and turn on other generations to it who think it's, as my kid said, cute but creepy, or
Yeah.
creepy cute.
Maybe I can convince Lita to watch it. She was like, no, thank you. But then, I don't know. Maybe if I keep watching it, she'll watch it.
I
So,
mean, it's they really did a good job of making you as a kid identify with that little girl. And she's, again, I do kind of am sad that she left the industry because maybe because of a crappy audition like her other finalists had. I don't, who knows?
yeah.
Like I think she was legitimately a good actress.
Yeah, she's great. She's great at it. So,
And so I would have liked to have seen other stuff she did, but
yeah.
she,
Maybe she was
like her
like
character,
broadcast news. That's a beloved movie. I'm gonna end on a high note.
maybe, like she, much like her character, found that love of the family was the
Yeah,
answer. And so
that's
good
sweet.
for the former Jenny James, whose secrets I will protect to the grave.
Good. Good for her. She's fantastic. All right, well then, if that's that, then we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on and being so supportive when I, originally was like, I want to start a podcast, and listening to the titles that I threw past you and giving me advice and stuff.
Oh
I
yeah.
definitely want to have you on again. So let's think, I am gonna do a Christmas tree episode. So,
Yeah, I miss our Christmas episodes that we used to do.
I know. So you definitely have to come on for that. But maybe we can pair it with something else. Though maybe there is a lot to say about that movie. It's fucking
I mean, I
crazy.
know that my daughter and your daughter have a lot to say about that
I
movie.
don't know. She got struck by lightning. Otherwise, this has been for Unlawful Cinematic Knowledge. I'm your host, Kolleen Carney Hoepfner, and stay tuned next week when we have guest Dan Davis talking about Dante Tomaselli's Horror from 2002, a movie no one has seen except me and three other people. It's terrible. I can't wait to talk about it. Thank you so much. See you soon.